Welcome to the deep dive. So our job today really is to take this batch of sources you send over, cut through all the noise, and pull out the really key bits of info and insight. And today we're looking at the crypto market. Lots going on.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix you've given us. I mean, everything from buzz around, specific new coins to how the market structure itself is changing.
Right.
And then you've got big players making serious investment moves and even a look down the road at potential tech challenges. It's quite the spread.
Exactly. So we're going to try and navigate through all that for you, show you what really jumped out at us. You'll get a sense of some maybe unexpected market shifts, see how different bits of the crypto world are performing, understand where some big names are putting their money, and also touch on, a pretty significant future hurdle the industry needs to think about. We'll be pulling out specific details to hopefully make it all stick.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive in then. Where do we start?
All right, let's kick off where a lot of the buzz often starts, the early stage stuff, the pre-sales. One source you sent highlights Arctic Pablo Coin. It notes the pre-sale just surged past $2.69 million. That feels like a very specific number for this point, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And what's interesting there isn't just the number itself, $2.69 million, but what it sort of signals,
Yeah.
Raising that much in a pre-sale, well, it suggests pretty strong early momentum, real investor confidence before it's even properly trading. For a brand new thing, getting that kind of cash up front points to a healthy appetite right out of the gate. It's definitely an indicator people watch.
Okay, so that figure is like a proxy for early excitement. Got
Exactly.
it. The same source also mentioned that alongside that pre-sale stuff, you've got established names like Filecoin and Cosmos apparently gaining steam right now. Now, the source didn't really elaborate much on why they're getting traction.
Right. And that's okay, actually, because even without the deep dive on the why from this source, just noting that Filecoin and Cosmos are picking up, well, that tells you something potentially interesting about the wider market mood.
How so?
Well, they're infrastructure projects, right? Storage, interoperability. Seeing them gain might suggest maybe renewed interest in those sort of foundational layers of crypto. Or perhaps there are specific developments going on with them that just weren't detailed here. It helps you track where attention might be shifting beyond just the shiny new tokens.
So tracking that kind of movement, even if you don't have all the reasons from one place, is part of seeing the bigger picture, the ebb and flow.
Exactly.
Okay, so from individual coins, let's zoom out a bit to market structure. One source flagged a really interesting shift in crypto fee rankings. PancakeSwap, the DEX, has apparently climbed into second place for weekly fees. Actually overtook Circle, the USDC issuer. Tether's still number one, though.
Yeah, that's quite revealing, isn't it? It makes you ask, okay, where is the actual economic activity happening right now? Where's the value being generated?
Right, fees are a direct measure of use.
Precisely. So seeing PancakeSwap, which is mostly on Binance Smart Chain, jump ahead of a huge stablecoin issuer like Circle.
Oh.
Well, it suggests that decentralized trading, DeFi activity, that kind of stuff is generating really significant fee revenue. And Tether still being on top just underlines, how central stablecoins still are for pretty much everything else happening in crypto globally.
So it gives you a snapshot not just of sheer volume, but the type of volume that's actually paying the bills, so to speak. It's not just moving stablecoins around. It's the trading on platforms like PancakeSwap that's driving a lot of value capture.
Exactly right. It's about the economic engine of different parts of the system.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, connecting to who's actually participating. We're talking institutional moves, notable investors. One article you sent detailed how Adam Back, a legend in the Bitcoin space, invested $2.1 million into a Swedish company, H100 Group.
Right, the Bitcoin treasury strategy firm.
Yes, exactly. And the article noted that after that news broke, H100 share price jumped, get this, 37%.
Wow. Yeah, that's significant for a few reasons. First, Adam Back's involvement. That's a massive signal. He's like foundational cypherpunk level important to Bitcoin. So him putting his own capital into a firm specifically focused on holding Bitcoin on its balance sheet, that's a huge endorsement of that whole corporate treasury idea. And the market reaction, that 37% pop, it just shows how much weight his name and that strategy carry right now.
So that 37% wasn't just noise. The source directly links it. And it's not just figures like Back with deep Bitcoin roots doing this. Another source mentioned DigiAsia Corp announcing a pretty hefty $100 million Bitcoin and Ethereum treasury plan. They're explicitly boosting their crypto holdings as part of their corporate strategy.
Yeah, and if you connect those dots, You've got diverse players stepping in. You have public companies like DigiAsia making 9-figure commitments to BTC and ETH. You have investment firms attracting capital from giants like Adam Back specifically for Bitcoin strategies.
Right.
It really points towards this growing trend, doesn't it? Integrating major cryptos directly into corporate balance sheets, into investment portfolios. It feels like it's moving beyond just trading or speculation. It's like a more fundamental adoption the sources are picking up on.
And speaking of significant institutional moves, you can't ignore the ETFs. BlackRock's Spot Bitcoin ETF, IBT, one source singled it out for hitting a top 25 ETF rank by assets under management and doing it incredibly quickly.
Yeah, the speed is the story there, purely the rate of asset growth. For any ETF, breaking into the top 25 by AUM that fast is, well, pretty much unheard of, let alone one tracking something like Bitcoin.
So what does that tell us?
It just signifies an absolutely massive, rapid inflow of capital through that specific channel. What it tells you, based on this source, is that the demand unlocked by these new spot ETFs isn't just big, it's moving at a velocity rarely seen even in traditional finance.
That speed itself is the key takeaway.
Yeah, okay.
Shifting gears just slightly, another source brought news from a major exchange, Binance. They recently lifted the altcoin resolve, ticker RESOLVE.
Yeah.
And not just on their main platform, but on their futures market too, simultaneously. The source called it double good news for the coin.
Right. Look, getting listed on a top-tier exchange like Binance is always a huge boost for an altcoin. Boosts visibility, liquidity, credibility, all that. But the key insight here, like the source points out, is the dual listing. Spot and futures, right off the bat. That usually opens the door for much more trading volume and different kinds of traders, different strategies. That's why it's seen as particularly bullish news. It enables more sophisticated market participation immediately.
Okay, got it. So we've gone from presale buzz, established coins moving, market fee structures, big individual and corporate investments, rapid ETF growth, exchange listings. Now let's look ahead. A very different kind of challenge highlighted in the sources. Quantum threats. An analyst, Rick Maeda, is quoted expressing, well, serious concern, stating the crypto sector is nowhere near ready for the looming quantum computing threat as of early June 2025.
Yeah, this is a heavy one. It really drills down into the long-term security foundations of this entire industry. The basic encryption, the algorithms securing most blockchains and transactions today, they're theoretically vulnerable to attack by powerful quantum computers.
Which don't exist yet, right?
Right, not computers powerful enough for that specific job, not yet. But analysts like Maeda are warning that developing and actually implementing quantum-resistant crypto across the whole ecosystem, wallets, exchanges, protocols, everything, is a massive, complex, multi-year, maybe multi-decade project.
Okay.
And the insight from this source is that despite all the current buzz about growth and adoption, the industry might be seriously lagging in preparing for this fundamental future security risk.
So if it's a future threat, why the alarm now? According to the source, what's made as urgency?
Because these kinds of fundamental shifts take so long. You can't just, flip a switch and become quantum resistant overnight. It needs deep changes everywhere. Maeda's concern, as presented here, seems to be that the sheer scale of what's needed isn't getting enough attention today, which means the industry could face a real security crisis later on if quantum tech advances faster than crypto prepares.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like a potential mismatch, doesn't it? Between the super fast market moves we've been talking about and this, like, slow motion but potentially huge risk.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together based on what you provided. We touched on that early interest hinted at by Arctic Pablo Coin's pre-sale number. The gains in Filecoin and Cosmos suggesting maybe some underlying shifts. The economic weight shown by PancakeSwap climbing the fee ranks. There's significant investment plays by Adam Back and DigiAsia Core.
Yeah.
The absolutely breakneck speed of BlackRock's IBT growth.
Right, the EPA.
The milestone of Resolve, getting that dual Binance listing, and then wrapping up with this serious long-term flag raised by analysts like Maeda about quantum readiness.
And looking at it all together like this, you really see how all these different parts of the crypto world are moving at the same time, but maybe at different speeds. You've got the retail interest in new things, established projects gaining ground, shifts in market structure, big money making strategic bets, institutions rushing in through new products, specific exchange milestones, and these fundamental warnings about future risks being sounded right alongside all that activity. It's, a complex picture, multi-speed, like you said.
It definitely highlights the different layers. The different time horizons people are focused on.
It does, which I guess leaves us with a kind of provocative thought, maybe, based on all this. It's this. How do you square the really rapid, almost instant wins and market moves we discussed, like BlackRock's ETF speed, or that 37% stock jump on investment news? How does that sit alongside the slow, incredibly complex, maybe even existential challenge of preparing for quantum computing, like Maida highlighted? Is all the excitement about the fast stuff maybe distracting the industry from the slow, hard, fundamental work needed for, long-term survival and security?
That's exactly the tension these sources bring to the surface, isn't it? You have this market that seems hyper-focused on the next quarter, the next AP, the next big adoption metric.
Yeah.
And contrasting that with this looming foundational challenge that requires a totally different mindset. Long-term planning, deep technical work, coordination. It definitely raises that question. Is the industry balancing today's opportunities effectively with tomorrow's absolute necessities? Something to chew on, for sure.
Absolutely. A lot to think about from this batch. Thanks for bringing these sources to us for the deep dive today.